Today we're talking about anti-batchers, not anti-vaxxers, anti-batchers. It's just a phrase I thought about when I was at a lovely long lunch hosted by Kat Mason. She calls it the Fusion Lunch. She runs it every now and then in Brisbane. I've been meaning to go along for some time, but yeah, finally made it work last week. And I was sharing just about how I podcast every single day, and someone asked, how do you do that? Do you record 7 episodes in a row and batch them? So that's what batching is all about. If you're not in the content creation world, or you do any marketing for yourself, what batching content is an approach where you might put aside an hour or two, maybe once a week, and that's when you write all your articles, record podcasts and things like that. It sounds like the ultimate approach in terms of freeing up your time. But I am an anti-batcher. It is controversial. Everyone tells me to batch my content. I just can't do it. Maybe I refuse to do it. I feel like I'm allergic to it, especially for this show, because I kind of want these ideas to just land in the moment at the right time. What I've discovered since doing this is that I do have ideas from time to time, but I don't actually use them immediately or use them when they're fresh. They kind of disappear and fade, and I would lose excitement for them. And so for this show, the whole reason behind this podcast is I have so many ideas, and usually they're just tucked away in my iPhone and they sit there and no one sees them. But at least now with some concepts, I get to flesh them out and do that. So what does it take to be an anti-batcher? Do I recommend it for everyone? Absolutely not. No, I don't. I do it and I don't recommend it. Look, it's a certain work style and a work preference. And I'm sure there's people out there that will like me that are now in the batching camp, and everyone that does batch their content absolutely raves about how great it is and how nice it is to wake up to content that's already been pre-scheduled and things like that. Occasionally when I know that I've got really big delivery weeks or I'm traveling and I don't want to put out shows, or maybe if I'm off the grid, I definitely have to have some of these podcasts in the bank for that. But for a show like this, I guess the beauty of it is if you want to follow along in real time, you're seeing the evolution of things, ideas as well on the show. So in terms of how do you live an anti-batcher life? I think you've, because I was even asked, is there a certain time of day that you do this? There's not a certain time of day, but there are certain situations where I will record. So one is if I already warmed up my voice. For example, I've just come off the Talk the Walk live stream with Alan Weiss. So my microphone's already here. I've been talking for some time. My ideas feel fresh. I've kind of woken up. So I can tag it along to something like the end of a Zoom call or a meeting where either before or after. That's ideal as opposed to just running on cold. The second thing is when I'm out, there's a specific sort of track that I walk when I'm walking, not running. And that is really for some reason, I just really like recording this. I've recorded a couple episodes, and sometimes I will edit out the sound of my footsteps. It's actually like a bush track, so you can hear me walking along it. And I actually like that sound, but just something about walking there puts me in the state. And I think this is probably part of a broader question is how do you just keep any type of daily habit? And for me, it's not the time of day, but it's probably the location and what I'm doing before and after, which is what I've shared there. So if I was to go to the other side and batch content, what I would need to do is have a list of things that I've thought about, maybe make a few bullet points for those, and then start recording. The other thing I like to do is, and I can't do this all the time, I meet so many great people, and sometimes it just doesn't feel right to record a conversation. I had a really terrific long lunch with Andrew Hollow, Dr. Jason Fox, and my friend Steph Clark in Melbourne. It was such a good conversation, and I know everyone would have loved to have listened to it. I mean, I would have listened to our sort of key reflections afterwards as well, but I had to run and get a plane. Plus, we were in an area that was really noisy. I also caught up with Matt Harris the other week and my friend Micah, and both would have been, we would have had great post-chat debriefs, but sometimes it's just not right. And I don't want to be that a kind of annoying person who brings out their phone and is like, hey, let's record a conversation. I just don't want to be that person. So at times I'll be opportunistic, take that opportunity in the moment. So that's how it's kind of evolved. No set pattern or routine, just a set when I'm in this place, when this idea hits, let's do it. So this idea of anti-batcher, what I'm thinking of doing is hosting, moving my newsletter and actually building up a community on Substack. And I'm thinking, what could I call it? And I'm like, anti-batcher, because it's kind of, I guess, funny, but it only would, you only would know that term batching if you're in the content creation type of community. And I know obviously want there to be a broader audience for it. But instead of having to title things and make products on it, I just get a chance to talk about it with you for 5 minutes and share my thoughts around that. In terms of creating content, probably the one where I have been the most habitual, if I reflect on anything, would have been, so 2 things. The First Time Facilitator podcast, because that was produced weekly, and that was really an interview-based show, so I had to be very methodical around that. And also when I wrote my book, The 2-Hour Workshop Blueprint, when I wrote that, I had to, my goal was to get it, the version 1 out very quickly in 52 days before I spoke at a conference in California. And so the first couple of hours of every day leading up to that was really focused on the book. So I know that I can move into those times. And the reason I do long distance running is to prove to myself that I can actually conform and follow a plan, because most of the time I like working outside of that and just annoying myself, almost self-sabotaging myself by doing that. But here's the thing, I get so much joy from producing on the go. A lot of the work that I do is actually about being in the moment and picking things up, trying to re-engineer it, trying to connect it to something else. And so by doing this every day and forcing that skill, I'm hopefully getting better at it as well. I think being in the moment, being able to respond in the moment, to communicate on the go is such an important skill set. So that's what this is hoping to build without having to pre-bake something. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. Let me know. I love hearing from you. Send me a message on any of the social platforms. Do you like batching content? Are you pro-batching? Do you record stuff and produce stuff and schedule it? Or are you a bit like me where it's organic, on the go, a bit more free-spirited? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.